Recently, I found myself thinking about that recent internet debate. One gorilla versus 100 people. And then a question popped into my head. What if it wasn't a gorilla, but Vergilius? And what if he had to take on 100 Don Quixotes? Could Vergilius outsmart and outfight them all, or would the sheer number of Dons overwhelm him? But here's the real question. Do the Dons need to take off their shoes and turn into Sanchos to stand a chance? And if they do, why? What changes? How does that affect their power? Now, to really understand this, we first need to figure out how strong Don Quixote actually is. So I'm going to start by looking at how powerful Base Don is. And then, based on her story, we'll also take a look at how strong Sancho is. Base Don, as you can see, is a character who gets faster and stronger with every clash she wins. Her attacks can also cause enemies to bleed, but since her opponent here is Vergilius, the bleed effect doesn't really matter in this fight. I'll explain why that is when we get to Vergilius. So yeah, Base Don is someone who grows stronger through winning clashes. But against Vergilius, her chances of actually winning a clash are pretty low. Then again, we're talking about 100 Base Dons. At least one of them should be able to land a hit, right? Unfortunately, it's not that simple. Vergilius operates on a completely different level. His insight is so advanced that he can literally see the future. He has the ability to perceive the flow of battle itself. And if you're wondering what flow even means, within the Project Moon universe, flow is basically the same thing as fate. Vergilius has the ability not only to see the flow, but to alter it. That means he can perceive possible outcomes, timelines, and events before they even happen. But his ability isn't flawless. If he follows the wrong flow, he could lose everything. So in a way, you could think of it as a weaker form of fate manipulation. That said, he wouldn't even need to rely on it against Base Don Quixotes. He could probably beat them blindfolded. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that the Base Don Quixotes don't stand a chance against Vergilius. But what if those Don Quixotes were Sanchos instead? That's when things might start to shift. Now I'm going to break down Sancho's strength using both lore and gameplay, and compare it directly to Vergilius. As we know from Project Moon's Leviathan webcomic and limbuscompany's Canto 6, Vergilius' ego lets him manipulate blood. But Sancho is blood.
Are you sure?
She's basically a vampire at this point.
Are you sure?
That said, there is something important to understand. Blood fiends don't always need blood to survive, but if they go too long without stealing it from humans, they start to lose their minds. Sancho, though, doesn't have that problem. Unlike Base Don, Sancho is mentally stable, more strategic, and far stronger. And on top of that, blood fiends can turn the humans they drain into blood bags. So imagine this, 100 Sanchos, each building their own personal army of blood bags and charging in. Things could get real wild. But the Sanchos might not even need a blood bag army. Now let's talk about just how strong Sancho really is, starting with her skill effects. Sancho can empower herself using Hard Blood, but it doesn't stop there. She can also grant her allies the Blood Feast effect. If you're wondering what Blood Feast is, think of it like a team-wide buff. So imagine 100 Sanchos coming together. The amount of Hard Blood and Blood Feast taking up would be insane, powering up each individual Sancho. And over time, as they take damage and the battle drags on, each Sancho starts attacking with stronger and more complex patterns. Some of these attacks can even paralyze the enemy. So yeah, even if Vergilius is resistant to bleed damage, the sheer volume of pressure from 100 Sanchos working together is way more than he could handle. In fact, because of Hard Blood and Blood Feast, you could say Vergilius is basically racing against time in this fight. Oh, and I should mention, Sancho even has attacks that heal her for the same amount of damage she deals. That means every single Sancho is capable of healing herself without needing help from the others. And on top of that, some of her skills can even grant shields when she wins a clash. So Sanchos aren't just healing themselves, they are buffing themselves with Blood Feast, shielding up, and turning into a wall that could actually put Vergilius on the defensive. Now let's talk a bit about Sancho's strength in the lore, and then I'll get into a few more things about Vergilius. If we take a look at how far Sancho launches herself in that scene, it's clear she is capable of jumping to extreme heights. Using a lance made of blood and the momentum from that leap, she takes on that Quixote and actually defeats him. And judging by that cutscene, it feels like every time the player presses space, Sancho gets even stronger. And when you factor in how each Sancho buffs the others and they all scale off each other's strength, it starts to resemble Saitama's exponentially increasing ability. Each one keeps pushing the others further, and the power level just keeps compounding from there. Now let's talk about the other abilities Vergilius has that I haven't mentioned yet, starting with Shin and Mang. In the Project Moon universe, Shin is a power used by color fixes or other high-tier individuals to enhance either themselves or their weapons. It allows the user to add immense destructive and piercing force to whatever they are using, but how powerful it becomes depends heavily on how it's applied by the user. Vergilius uses Shin to boost a weapon that's already insanely strong to begin with. Even without Shin, he's able to slice through buildings with ease using that weapon, and when he does apply Shin to it, it becomes far more devastating. Vergilius is powerful enough to take on an entire Wild Hunt army and completely wipe them out by himself. Now let's talk a bit about Vergilius' in-game traits and skills. He has a passive ability that can slow down and weaken his enemies. On top of that, his blood barrier lets him become essentially invincible for a short period of time. But here's the thing, even 100 Sanchos could probably take down the Wild Hunt themselves. So what I'm getting at is this: while Vergilius definitely has the power to defeat the Wild Hunt, he stands no chance against 100 Sanchos who are constantly buffing each other to absurd levels. Yes, we know Vergilius' ego is especially effective against groups, but this isn't just any group, we're talking 100 Sanchos here. So yeah, unless Vergilius suddenly unlocks Ultra Instinct, clones himself 99 times, and stacks plot armor like it's a collectible, I don't think he's walking away from this one.